Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Level Up Podcast with myself, Greg Harrelson. This is where I focus on taking you from agent to entrepreneur. As you know, I have a passion for developing agents. And on today's episode, I'm going to share another quick strategy on how you can increase your production. I'm going to be real, so you be ready. Let's level up.
Hey everybody, Greg Harrelson here with the Level Up Podcast, and I'm glad to bring another episode to you with my partner, not only on this podcast, but partner in multiple real estate companies of mine throughout the Carolinas, Brendan Payne. And we are going to be talking about increasing your conversion by 100%. Here's the great thing. You know, when you increase your conversion rate by 100%, maybe you're at 1% and you go to 2%. Guess what? That happens to your revenue. You increase your revenue by 100%. So I think everybody would like to increase their revenue, the amount of income that they're earning, their profitability, and this is the podcast for you. So Brendan, thanks for being here.
Yeah, good to be back.
Yeah, man. Hey, we talked about increasing your conversion. And one of the things that, came about is you and I started talking about having a conversation about roadblocks. And one thing that we discovered that we really want to share with the audience is we discovered that roadblocks for doing the transaction, like what are the roadblocks that's keeping the buyer from moving forward? And as we started writing these roadblocks down, we started to discover that the agent believes the roadblocks are a certain set of things, but the consumer, their roadblocks are different. And that could be the difference in conversion ratio. So, Brendan, with that, let's just go right into it. So, roadblocks. When we're talking to agents, what are some of the things that you're hearing as to, hey, what's keeping your buyers from moving forward? What do you hear agents saying right now?
Couple things. I think the obvious ones right now are interest rates. I think that we may hear this. I think that the consumer does say that it's finding the property. But I think as agents, we've adopted that the thing that is keeping most buyers from moving forward once they can qualify is I've got to find the right property. And that's rarely the case. We know we've talked about before, buying a property is an elimination game. It's not a selection game. So when they're saying I've got to find the right property, that's usually just like the knee-jerk reaction, the interest rate, kind of a knee-jerk reaction. But I think agents are hearing that, and that's the problem they're trying to solve. And they're on the wrong page a lot of times.
Yeah, as you're saying some of those, I think all those are smoke screens, right? So, when you say, well, interest rates, look, any buyer that you're talking to right now, they knew the interest rates before they called you, before they hit the contact an agent button on some website. They knew the interest rates. So for them to turn around and say, well, I'm kind of not really going to move forward right now, interest rates are a bit high. Well, they remember when you capture a lead online, they actually had to put all their information in and then hit submit and sign up, kind of imply that they're okay with you calling them or texting them. So it's like they knew the interest rates. They knew all that. So I believe when we get that, that's just kind of like the person going in a department store and saying, no, I'm just looking, but then ends up buying. I think that's good. Another thing we talked about is how that a roadblock is the agents, and maybe they on the first call they ask the buyer to get pre-qualified, and the buyer doesn't want to really get pre-qualified at that moment. Or the buyer says, well, no, I'm already working with a lender. I'm already pre-qualified. That becomes a roadblock for a lot of agents because they feel like, oh, this person's not serious, or I don't want to waste my time. I think I don't want to waste my time is a big roadblock with agents and moving forward. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. I think that it's been downloaded in our brains so long that there's these qualifying questions. But I think that you've got to wait on any of the qualifying questions, the acronym LP MAMA, aside from when do you want to go look at property, which would be the asking for an appointment. Aside from that, The rest of those questions, how many bedrooms, baths, are you qualified? Are you cash? Are you working with any other agents? All those things typically come after finding out more about their motivation and the time frame. Once we're in rapport enough to understand their motivation, their time frame, we've just had some good, non-threatening back and forth conversation. We'll get into all that stuff. But when we start with qualifying questions, it's hard to get in rapport because those aren't the things that are keeping them from moving forward. Those are the things that we want to know so we can determine whether or not we're going to get paid from these guys. And they sense that. There's a disconnect.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So what from the consumer's minds, not what we make up as agents, from the consumer's minds, what are their roadblocks?
I think right now, the one that may show up and be verbalized as interest rates is actually just affordability. You can look at any neighborhood in your market and just choose where a home is priced. And if the interest rates are at where they're at today, but the home was 40% less, you'd have a feeding frenzy on the home. So it doesn't matter what the interest rates are. It's a combination of the prices where properties are right now with the interest rate, which is the affordability. So when somebody says, I'm waiting for interest rates to go down, all they're really telling you is, listen, things right now that I'm looking at seem to be a little bit high. Maybe I can't get exactly what I want. Maybe the payment's going to be a little too high. It's a perfect opportunity then to acknowledge that and say, okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that you're wanting to buy, but we've got to find a way that you're going to be in a little bit more position where things are going to be a little bit more affordable. Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Now you just went from interest rates are too high, I'm waiting till they go down, to I just need to find something that's more affordable. Now everything opens up to you because we know that there are other ways that properties can become affordable. So we can start talking through. Have you talked through with any of the new construction that's doing a lot of buying down rates? We could look at offers where you get properties that are a little bit higher, but we might have this hidden, super motivated seller. Let's start looking at some properties and see if we can get some offers. We might find somebody that's more motivated to sell than their list price. But we get further in that conversation when we actually get them to acknowledge, like, this is the roadblock. It's not the interest rates going down. We know what will happen in most markets. If interest rates go down significantly and they're excited, so are all their friends and neighbors. What happens to prices?
Prices go up.
But we can't tell them, listen, guys, that's a dumb move to wait. Can't wait for the interest rates to go down. You're going to have these higher prices. So through that conversation, you get to understand that this isn't an interest rate. This is about affordability, and we've got a solution for that.
That's it. That's beautiful. A few things. One thing I want to point out is you did an amazing reframe there from an interest rates to what I'm hearing, and then bringing it to affordability. That's an amazing technique that you used there. For those of you that are listening, I highly suggest that you go back and rewind that and use that script, because that was a very, very, very intentional reframe. The other thing is that just kind of dawned on me here as you were talking is, gosh, when the interest rates were low, it was an affordability issue because you had to pay $30,000 over full price.
That's right.
And you can do it. If the interest rates are high, it's an affordability issue. So really, it doesn't really matter. When interest rates go down, it's going to be an affordability issue. If interest rates stay high, it's going to be an affordability issue. People are just going to have to move on. That is what it is. I mean, that's just kind of the world we live in right this second.
In which people will move on. Which people will move on? What do we call them? If they're going to move on in this environment, what do we call them?
Motivated.
They're motivated. So at the end of the day, that's all that matters anyway, which is why we have to talk about and figure out what's the motivation, the time frame. Then it just makes everything so much easier. Anything else you as one.
Some things that I wrote down that I think are roadblocks, and I'll take a little different twist on it, because I think you came up with like a relevant scenario, like something like a current event that affordability. That's currently an event that we deal with, right? I think other roadblocks, though, is from the consumer's mind is trust and rapport. I think a roadblock is not knowing a clear path forward, not being told what the recommended next steps need to be.
Yep.
And so, I think about like just on the most basic level, when somebody's responding to a new lead, maybe somebody opted into your website because they were searching on this one property, wanted some additional information. One of the things that I always coach is that we need to give them a call and just say, hey, Brendan, I see that you are looking at a property over on XYZ Street. I'd be happy to give you some information on that. By the way, any chance you'd like to schedule an appointment to take a look at that later on this afternoon or maybe sometime tomorrow? Like showing them a path forward. Now, they may say, oh, no, I'm not really sure if I want to see it. I just had a few questions. No problem. But you see how I'm taking them forward. We need to show them a path, give them a clear path forward to either see properties, write contracts, whatever it might be. The other thing is like, if somebody says to you, I'm going to be another 7 months, 7 months before we do anything, agents get very discouraged and they too quickly say, all right, well, no problem. Most of the properties that are on the market right now, if they're any good, they'll be off the market by that time, because they'll already be purchased. So I'll go ahead and send you some properties, and you get a notification and alert every time a new one comes on the market. Let me know if there's anything that you have questions on, and I'll just follow up from you from time to time. That's very common. But what you want to do is, because then there's no structure, there's no move forward, there's no next steps. What you want to do is say, wow, so 6 or 7 months before you make a purchase. Well, hey, that's fantastic. Thank you for letting me know that. As a matter of fact, there's a real opportunity for you. I mean, the opportunity in your time frame is you're going to have plenty of time to learn the market, understand where you want to be, where you don't want to be. But most important, you're going to have the opportunity to really get an understanding of the prices. So when we do find that property 6 months from now, you're going to be in a good position for negotiations because you're going to understand pricing better than most. So what I would recommend that our next steps be is I will do this and then I will do this and blah, blah, blah. That's the type of conversation I think that's missing. So we're just getting off the phone. We're moving on. No clear next steps, no clear path forward. We didn't build rapport. We didn't build trust. And then all of a sudden, these buyers don't move forward with us. They don't move forward with anyone. And they go to the next agent. The same thing happens over and over again. And they just sit around doing nothing. Where somebody that handles this call more effectively, they're going to help people navigate through the process faster. I think that's one of the challenges also when it comes to conversion.
Yeah. We I think on the buying side, because they show up a lot earlier a lot higher in the funnel. I think that we're always looking for that. Yes, I'm ready to go buy today, look at property today and write an offer. And if you're talking to your leads, you're going to come across those every once in a while where somebody is ready right now. That's why we ask the question, you want to go look at something today? But the majority of people you're going to catch somewhere else in that funnel. And our value has to be tied to them understanding what do we do between here and the time that they are ready, whether it's 6 weeks, 6 months, 2 years down the road. Why should they stick with us in that time? Because when we're just letting them go and, go ahead and take a look at some properties and I'll send you things and make sure that you're getting them and stuff like that. There is no value that agent brings that buyer. They've got the ability to do all of those things on their own. What they don't have the ability to do is have somebody kind of walk along with them in this process, be their guide, and look out ahead of time and say, hey, here's why your 6 months is going to be a huge benefit to you. Because the fact that they say, oh, no, it's going to be 6 months or so, to them, they're actually telling you, listen, I don't think there's anything you can do for me right now. And then when we say, yeah, but I'll just send you some properties, we acknowledge that. When we stop them and go, no, this is actually incredible. There's a ton I can do. Like help you understand the market when we get ready to offer. We just educate them on something. They're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I guess that's true. 6 months isn't a bad thing. And then the thing that we have to do, though, is we have to be committed to not just listening for the people that say, I'm ready to buy right now. We have to see as much value in that person that says, it's going to be a while, 6 months. Okay, well, probably we're not going to take them to show them a property tomorrow, but you got to be just as excited about that person, because in 6 months from now, you probably still want to do a deal. And if we start that conversation today, they'll be there in 6 months.
Yeah. So I that was a key point, is listening, right? And, one of the things for you all out there, listening to Brendan and I right now, is Brendan and I have been observing, listening, reading the transcripts, and grading a lot of calls that are being made from real estate agents to their buyer databases, even seller databases. And a lot of what we're talking about right now is coming from what Brendan and I are understanding when we're observing all these calls, listening to the recordings, reading the transcripts, and picking out the little nuances maybe that or opportunities that are being missed. And what I've concluded, and I think Brendan and I have talked about, is that we're always listening, but unfortunately, we're listening to ourselves more than we're listening to the consumer, the lead. So we have this, what I call, an always already listening scenario going on, which is kind of like you're always listening for the things that you think somebody's going to say. And so it's like, as soon as they say, well, gosh, interest rates are a little bit high right now. They didn't say that they weren't going to buy because they're a little bit high, but we hear, oh my God, and here's another person complaining about interest rates they're not going to buy. See, like, we hear things based on what we're listening for, when what we've got to do is quiet our own minds and listen to them. And when they do say, interest rates are a little bit high, says, you know what? I totally get it. And as Brendan said, but what I hear you saying is that, affordability for some of the properties that you may have been introduced on the internet maybe looks like that's a little bit out of reach. So, it's not interest rates, it's affordability, but you've got to listen for what they're really saying and ask questions around what they're saying so they can talk more, so you can listen more. If we would all ask for the appointment within the first sentence and ask more open-ended questions whenever they answer a question, answer more open-ended questions, we would hear the roadblocks go away and we could move forward. Any final thoughts on that? I really just didn't want this one to be too long. I want to really talk about increasing conversion, but taking a different twist like we have today, Brendan, than what most people are talking about. Most people are talking about speed to lead. I believe in speed to lead. Yes. Yeah. But there's other things. Let's assume you've got speed to lead. It's more to it than speed to lead.
Yeah. If you can ask good questions get you in rapport. When you're asking your next question, you're building off of what they just answered you. So you're formulating your next question off their previous answer, and truly listen versus what am I going to say next? Then you're going to get through the first initial part of the call where it's kind of, they're kind of feeling you out, you're feeling them out. And then all of a sudden they're going to open up with something like, well, here's what's really going on, or here's what we need to do first. You're going to get past that point where it's just this exchange that we do when we walk in the store, and they're going to start opening up. And then it's just a conversation. Now, the key to that, though, is these things have to be internalized. And so until you internalize them, and until you expect that I'm going to get this in my first response, and this is kind of how we're going to flow through the call, until you get to that point through a lot of reps, then you're constantly going to be listening to respond as opposed to listening to understand.
Yeah, that's important. I thought I'll leave people with this is like there are different types of questions. That there's 3 or 4 different versions of questions. There's yes, no questions. There's open-ended questions. So a yes, no. Are you looking to purchase this year? That's a yes, no. Open-ended. I'm just kind of curious. When are you hoping to make a purchase? What's got you thinking about making a purchase? Those are open-ended. Then you've got like A or B questions. Are you looking for a condo or would you prefer a home? Those are A and B, like this or that. Yes or no, or open-ended. The key, there is a 4th one, by the way. The 4th one is called a statement with a tie down. You do want to sell, don't you? You still want to sell, don't you? The statement was you still want to sell, comma, don't you is the tie down with the question mark. Those are 4 variations of questions. The variation that we should be using most often is the open-ended. And make a commitment. The formula is like this. Ask an open-ended, they give you an answer. Ask another open-ended about their answer. Go at least 2 deep. So I'm just kind of curious, where do you plan on moving? Going to go to Atlanta. Atlanta, fantastic. You tell me this, what's taking you to Atlanta? Those are 2 open-ended questions. Second one, based on the first one's answer. Now I'm going to get deeper into the conversation. This is what will uncover the roadblocks as long as you do what Brendan said, and that is listen. Any final thoughts there, Brendan, before we wrap it up?
Yep. That's a good wrap up.
All right, everybody. Hey, thank you so much for tuning into the Level Up podcast. By the way, you need to check out, if you ever want to get involved with some coaching, I have a great coaching program called the Agent Success Academy. Look it up. I'd love to help you build your business. Brendan, thank you so much, and I look forward to doing another episode with you soon. Bye-bye.
Sounds good.